Hi, I'm John Stevenson, and we're going to be looking at Psalm 91, a song of security. Notice as we begin, there's no superscription. That we're in Book 4 now. It started in Psalm 90, was the beginning of Book 4. And a number of these will not have a superscription, and even those that do won't, they'll often not be superscriptions that tell us the author. Now, we started with Moses, that was last psalm. Here, there's no superscription, so we just begin with a psalm. He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High, notice dwelling and shelter of the Most High, will abide, dwelling is the same as abiding, in the shadow of the Almighty. Do you see how these three things are repeated? Dwelling and abiding are the same thing. The shelter and the shadow are sort of the same thing. The Most High is the Almighty. And so this is parallelism. This is synonymous parallelism. Verse 2, I will say to the Lord, my refuge and my fortress. Now, we're going to have both of these terms. Actually, probably should have circled refuge because that's going to be repeated in a bit. But my fortress, and I wanted to circle that one because there's something special here that's maybe just special to me. And that's the term here for fortress is Mitsudati. That there's a place called Mitsuda, or we say Masada, and the word just means fortress. And so, not saying you have to imagine that specific place, Masada, but imagine a fortress, a large fortress, and that's what God is describing. Notice, God is being described as a fortress, as a refuge and fortress. My God in whom I trust. Verse 3, for it is he who delivers you from the snare of the trapper and from the deadly pestilence. Notice there's a few things to be delivered from the snare, the pestilence. He will cover you with his pinions. Now, this is changing our imagery a bit. The snare and the pestilence, and one is something that traps you. The pestilence is something that it's a sickness that comes over you. And then verse 4, he will cover you with his pinions. Pinions is like claws. That's something that a bird or an eagle has. And notice how that continues. And under his wings you may seek, and there it is, refuge again. His faithfulness is a shield and a bulwark. And so we have a number of metaphors being used and supplies the snare, the pestilence, the bird image, and the shield and bulwark. We continue into verse 5. You will not be afraid of the terror by night, or of the arrow that flies by day, there's pestilence again, of the pestilence that stalks in darkness, or of the destruction that lays waste at noon. So notice night, day, darkness, noon. Doesn't matter when the bad thing happens, it can happen at any time, but that's okay. Because, verse 7, 1,000 may fall at your side and 10,000 at your right hand. Reminds me a little bit. I remember a song like this about how Saul had slain his thousands and David his 10,000s. Now, I'm not saying that you're supposed to necessarily think of them, but 1,000 can fall, and 10,000 to lose 1,000 troops, and then to lose 10,000 troops. That's to lose a lot, as well as to have a pestilence and destruction and all of these things surrounding you. But notice how it ends, verse 7, but it shall not approach you. All these things are going to, you might have bad things happening all around you. Notice it shall not approach you. Verse 8, you will only look on with your eyes and see the recompense of the wicked. God is describing the protection of his people. Or actually, they are being described. God's not speaking yet. We're going to see that in just a bit. Now, notice verses 1 through 8 that we've looked at. We saw the Lord is a refuge, a fortress. He delivers you from deadly pestilence, and you won't be afraid. Now, in verses 9 through 13, we see some of those same terms, or at least similar terms. We're going to see pretty much the same thing again. Notice the Lord is a refuge and dwelling place, a refuge and fortress. That's sort of the same thing. Delivers you from deadly pestilence. No evil or plagues will come near. Plagues and pestilence are really different ways of describing the same thing. You will not be afraid versus you will not strike your foot against a stone. Not quite the same thing, but you can see the parallelism of the entire section. Let's look at that, verse 9. For you have made the Lord my refuge, even the Most High, your dwelling place. Remember how we saw that refuge and fortress. Now it's refuge and dwelling place. No evil will befall you. We just saw that. Nor will any plague come near you, or near your tent, actually. Verse 11, for he will give his angels charge concerning you. Now, if this part sounds a little bit familiar, it's because you've seen this in the New Testament, where this passage is quoted, and actually it's quoted by Satan. You say, wait a minute, Satan quotes scripture? Yes, Satan quotes scripture in that place where Jesus is in the wilderness. He's been there for 40 days and 40 nights. He's been hungry. And Satan is trying to tempt him and takes him up to a high place, the pillar of the pinnacle of the temple, and quotes this. He will give his angels charge concerning you to guard you in all your ways. They, that is the angels, will bear you up in their hands that you do not strike your foot against a stone. And so in both Matthew and Luke talk about Jesus being taken up to the pinnacle of the temple. Now, we're not sure exactly where that is. However, we found, and notice this, what you're looking at here is a model of the southwest corner of the temple. And at the bottom of that, we found this big stone that was fashioned and apparently was part of I'm going to call it the pinnacle, the high place up there, and it had the inscription on it saying "to the place of trumpeting," where apparently every morning when the sun wasn't even up yet, it had not yet risen above the Mount of Olives to the east. Somebody, maybe a priest, would go up to that pinnacle of the temple and would wait to see the rays of the sun. And as soon as he saw the sun, he would blow the trumpet, the shofar, saying, now it's time for the sacrifices to begin. Well, here, Satan takes Jesus to that location and then quotes this passage saying, look, you can jump off and the angels will catch you. They will bear you up in their hands that you do not strike your foot against a stone. And of course, Jesus doesn't go for it. He says, the scriptures also say, don't tempt the Lord your God. I'm not here to do magic tricks. I'm not here to just, jump off things so that angels will catch me. That's an inappropriate use of this passage. So this passage isn't saying go out and jump off things. No. But what it is describing is the protection of God. That's still there. Verse 13, you will tread upon the lion and the cobra. And then notice we say it again with different words. The young lion, this is actually a different word. We would say you see lion cub, you still have the word lion in there. So it's a different term that means young lion. And instead of cobra, now it's the serpent. See, that's like that. Cobra is one kind of snake. Serpent is just another word for snake. The young lion and the serpent you will trample down. Now we had verses 1 through 8, where we had, the Lord is refuge and no pestilence, and you'll not be afraid. And then verses 9 through 13 that we just looked at, again, Lord is refuge, no plagues, nothing's going to strike your foot because the angels will catch you. And in both of those sections, the psalmist was speaking about God and the way he protects his people. But now, in the closing verses, there's going to be a change because now the Lord speaks. And the Lord's going to promise to act on behalf of the one who loves him. So let's look at this. Beginning in verse 14, because he has loved me. Now notice how the translation has this in quotes. Because he has loved me, therefore I will deliver him. This is God speaking. I will set him securely on high because he has known my name. So it's because he has loved me. And because he has known my name, because of that relationship that God has with his people, the people that are his, because of that relationship, God says, I'm going to deliver. I'm going to set him on high. In other words, not let him fall down, like we talked about in the previous section. Verse 15, he will call upon me and I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. I will rescue him and honor him. With a long life, I will satisfy him and let him see my salvation. And so notice how we have these promises of God promising to care for and protect his people, and even to let them see, verse 16, his salvation. How do you see the salvation of God? By knowing him, by loving him, by believing in him, by entering into that relationship with the Lord. That is the door to salvation.